Slaven Bilic has been sacked as Watford manager. Let's be honest, are any of us that surprised? It is quite funny to me that the final nail in his coffin turned out to be a goalless draw with Preston North End. That's what drawing with North End will do to you these days. But it got me thinking, there have been a total of 18 mid-season managerial appointments in the Championship, and in today's video we're going to be ranking them all into this following tier list. We've got plenty of tiers to go ahead and chuck all of these managers into: S, A, B, C, D and E. Obviously we won't be ranking Chris Wilder today, who's just come in at Watford as he's not taken charge of a competitive match yet, but the rest of these managers who have come in partway through the season we will be ranking. And without any further ado, let's jump in. Probably worth starting out with Bilic, seeing as he's been the most recent casualty, brought in partway through the season after Watford had got rid of Rob Edwards, and to be honest I'm not massively surprised by the decision, looking at the resources that Bilic has to work with and what was probably expected of him going into that Watford job, considering his previous managerial CV in the Championship. I don't think he's quite lived up to the billing. From the point that Bilic took over Watford to the point we are now, I think Watford would be about 10th or so in the form table, which doesn't really stack up to the quality that's in that squad. It does feel, watching Watford a lot of the time, that they have been overly reliant on individual moments of quality more so than a cohesive system, and for that reason I'm tempted to chuck Bilic down in the sort of D category, considering the resources he's had to work with compared to other Championship managers who are going to be ranking in this tier list. I don't think it's been a great job from him. You know, a squad that I thought would be competing for automatic promotion this season has been way off the pace. There have been moments, a couple notable performances to go back to, that one against Stoke I remember in the early days, but generally speaking it was pretty turgid stuff at Watford. Neil Critchley in at QPR, I'm going to have to chuck him into the E category. Won his first game against my side North End, and from that point onwards didn't win a single other match at QPR. They dropped down the league table like a stone throughout his tenure in charge, and I actually can't believe just how badly it turned out in the end. Now there are more issues to QPR than just Critchley. You know, Ainsworth's found it tough in his first couple of matches in there so far, but considering the managerial CV, the work he'd done at Blackpool previously compared to the results he got out of that side, no doubt for me that's an E-level appointment. Really bad in the end. Tony Mowbray in at Sunderland. They have had a little bit of a wobble recently. They look like they might threaten for a top 6 finish, but across their last few results have fallen off a little bit from that standpoint. But overall I'd chuck him into the B tier. I think at their best Sunderland have played some really good football this season, a few youngsters who have obviously come up through, and had it not been for that Ross Stewart injury, perhaps we would have seen a really good battle for the top 6 in the second half of the season, and maybe even then I could have pushed him up a little bit further. But all things considered, I'd say that was about a B level appointment. Talking about someone in the A tier, Liam Rosenior in at Hull City. I think this one was always going to be a hit, considering his coaching CV, how well he speaks about the game, and coming into a club like Hull who he already has that previous connection with. I think a lot of us were expecting this one to go quite well, but the instant reaction he's managed to get out of that Hull group, how he's almost instantly shaped them up defensively, and had Rosenior been in the Hull post from the start of the season, who knows where they could be in the table right now, because they've been a hell of a lot more consistent with him in charge. Mick McCarthy in at Blackpool, the sort of old school manager coming in to try and save the day. I'm not sure this appointment has had the desired effect so far. Certainly not an E-level appointment, but I'm tempted to chuck it in the D tier. Just one win from 9 games in charge for McCarthy so far. Obviously, maybe they can build something on the back of grinding out that point against Burnley in the end, but generally speaking, in terms of overall performances, I've not seen any upward trend from how Appleton was doing compared to what McCarthy's doing now. And I actually think that McCarthy maybe is working with a bit of a better squad after the January transfer window, albeit there have been a lot of injuries at Blackpool there this season. But has McCarthy's magic faded with age? I think maybe. David Wagner in at Norwich. I'm going to put him into the A category. Another one similar to Rosenior actually, where I think if he was in charge at Norwich from the start of the season and they didn't have that inconsistent patch under Dean Smith, who knows where this Norwich side could be right now. I definitely think they'd be higher up the table and maybe even battling it out for automatic promotion. I definitely think there's the quality in the squad to go ahead and do that. But at their best under Wagner, I think they've been a really enjoyable side to watch. That win at Millwall last time out was a massive result in their season, and if they do carry on the way they're going at the moment, certainly wouldn't be surprised if they go up through the playoffs. Gareth Ainsworth in at QPR, it does feel a little bit too early to judge. 2 games, 2 losses doesn't look great on his CV, but I think I'd be doing him a bit of a disservice if I was to properly go in on him. So for the time being, I'm going to put him in the C category, but that's me sort of just sitting on the fence with him because we've not got enough to really judge him off so far with what we've seen from him in at QPR. Kolo Touré, gonna have to put him in the E category. It was a bit of a strange appointment by Wigan at the time. The dismissal in the first place, why they made the managerial change was a little bit strange to me, but to then get in someone like Touré with no managerial experience into a sinking ship that Wigan were at the time just seemed a little bit strange from afar, and in the end that appointment went about as well as I think we all imagined it would. No wins from Touré's time in charge. Their goal difference took a massive hit during this time as well with how open they were at the back. Tried to coach into them to be a little bit more expansive, but didn't go to plan whatsoever, and yeah, just seemed like the wrong appointment completely. Sabri Lamucci in at Cardiff. Do you know what? I think this one's turned out to be a really solid appointment so far. I'm going to chuck him into the B category. Certainly in terms of win percentage so far, judging him off the other Cardiff managers who have been in that post and the sort of mess that he walked into when he first took on that job at Cardiff. He's a manager with a good managerial CV in the Championship from his previous tenure at Nottingham Forest. I think that going forward, Cardiff have got a proper manager there who they can properly get behind. Mark Hudson, a bit of a strange appointment if we're all being honest. The Sean Morrison dismissal was a little bit strange. The fact that they then turned to him, they saw no sort of upward turn in performances and actually regressed a little bit in terms of the overall numbers. Gonna chuck that one into the D category. That was just a bit of a strange appointment as well. Right, let's get positive though. S tier, Michael Carrick going straight up there. I don't think there can be any debates. The best mid-season appointment from any Championship club from where Middlesbrough were under Chris Wilder. Vastly underperforming, but to the levels in which Carrick's been able to take them to. We saw the form table for 2023 in yesterday's video, and I genuinely think that had Michael Carrick been at Middlesbrough, being at the Riverside for the entire season, they would be right up there now in the top 2, potentially even above Sheffield United with how well they've actually been playing. They've been brilliant at bouncing back from defeat so far, and at their best have been one of the best sides to watch in the Championship under Carrick. He's going to go far in terms of his own managerial career, but in terms of the appointment itself, really good stuff from Middlesbrough mid-season. Mark Fotheringham in at Huddersfield. I'm tempted to chuck him into the E tier as well. I know there were a few results that he picked up throughout his tenure with them. I think it was 5 wins altogether from about 21 matches. No, not a great record by any means, but those wins could prove vital come the end of the season. But generally speaking, he never quite sold himself to the Huddersfield fan base. I never felt from the outside looking in. His post-match interviews a lot of the time I think rubbed Huddersfield fans the wrong way as well. I really don't think they stood much of a chance of survival with him at the helm over a full season either. So for me, just a bad managerial appointment all round. Matt Taylor in at Rotherham. Do you know what? I'm going to chuck him into the B tier. There was that quite shaky period he had with them where it seemed like everything started to crumble away and they were looking like that most vulnerable side to drop into the bottom 3, but they were in a really dangerous position once Warne left, and they had to get that appointment spot on as well as having a really successful January window. In the end, I think they've sort of nailed both those things, and they are looking in a very good position at the moment to stay up in the Championship, and at the start of the season that's what the objective was. Alex Neil in at Stoke. I'm really conflicted on this one. I'm sort of in the middle with Alex Neil because at their best, Stoke under Neil I think have been a very competitive, good Championship side, especially on the road, but at home I still think there's a lot left to be desired and a lot left to be worked on for Alex Neil, and they have been the perfect template for one step forward, one step back throughout Neil's tenure at Stoke. So if they can establish that bit of consistency, I think moving forward Neil could turn out to be a popular figure there once he does crack that formula, but it doesn't quite feel like he is there yet, albeit they had that fantastic win over Sunderland at the weekend. So Alex Neil sort of in the middle with him at the moment. I think his record is really quite similar to O'Neill, who was obviously there before him. Rob Edwards in at Luton, I'm also going to chuck him into the S tier, I think. I think the fact that Luton haven't suffered whatsoever from the departure of Nathan Jones really speaks to how well he's actually done there. The fact that, you know, he went from being let go by their arch rivals to doing so well with Luton now. He's got them punching above their weights and above Watford in the league. Yeah, really speaks to the job he's done. Luton, always a side who I enjoy watching whenever I get a chance to watch them over a full 90 minutes on the TV, and I've quite enjoyed what his Luton side has looked like compared to Nathan Jones's. So yeah, S tier appointment. Carlos Corberán, I think we have to consider where West Brom were when he took over the reins, how toxic that club was, especially towards the end of Steve Bruce. I think I'd be doing him a disservice to put him at anything less than an A. Remains to be seen whether they will have enough in the tank come the end of the season to go ahead and make it into the top 6. Certainly when they went on that winning streak, when Corberán first got the job, looked like it would be possible, but it is very competitive in and around the top 6 at the moment. But Corberán laid the foundations for a good solid championship side who will compete for the top 6 this season, and compared to who was in the post previously, been a really good upturn of form. Neil Warnock in at Huddersfield, another one who does feel maybe a little bit too soon to fully judge and to fully scope out. Now, he's had 4 games in charge so far and he did walk into an absolute mess at the club, so going to sit on the fence with Warnock until we see a bit more of that Huddersfield side under him, and I'm going to chuck him into this C tier, I think, for the time being. Sean Maloney, I think I'm going to give him a B for his overall impact at Wigan, compared to how much more competitive they've looked under him compared to the mess that was served up sort of on a weekly basis under Toure. He's another one of those managers where if Wigan had made that mid-season managerial flip and they'd immediately got Maloney in, I think they'd been in a lot more of a healthy position to survive in the Championship this season with Maloney. But regardless of what happens next season, I think there is a bit more optimism at Wigan to maybe back a manager like Maloney for a long-term project there, and I think all things considered, I'd probably chuck him into the B tier as well. But there we have it, guys. That will wrap it up for today's video. Do leave your thoughts down below. What have you made of each managerial change in the Championship this season? Who have had the positive and negative impacts? But apart from that, that will wrap it up for today's video, guys. Leave a like and stay subscribed if you are new around here, and I'll see you all in the next one.